if the elections were today, absolutely, it'd be a cakewalk.
So tell us, what do you make of Cohen's testimony so far?
Par for the course for a convicted perjurer and a man who wants revenge on President Trump because he thought he'd get to be his chief of staff in the White House, but really a clown show, almost as bad as Stormy Daniels, the porn actress, the week before.
What do you think? How do you think it's playing in court? Because that's I guess the question. It's a jury of 12. They've got to make their minds up about this. How do you think his performance is going?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a mentalist, so I don't know what's inside the heads of the 12 jurors. It is New York, which overwhelmingly votes Democrat, so it's hardly a jury representative of the United States. But how it's doing outside is the real question, because we're less than 6 months away from an election. And whenever they persecute President Trump with these outrageous false charges, he just gets more and more popular. In New Jersey, a Democrat state, I'm sure you saw the footage. He just had a rally with 100,000 people in a Democrat state. So the more they come after him with garbage, rubbish, political prosecutions, the more popular he gets. He's now got 52% of the Hispanic vote, up to 28% of the black vote. He's trouncing Joe Biden in 5 of the 6 battleground states. So they really are quite moronic. The more they come after him, the more the average American just sees right through it.
And there's an argument that these legal cases have definitely helped Trump. The argument, I suppose, in favor of Cohen is the thing that Cohen was convicted for, paying off Stormy Daniels, is something that can fall upon Trump. And obviously the case of the prosecution is that it does fall upon Trump. It's established that Cohen paid this woman off. The question, therefore, is how much Trump knew about it. And the extent that Trump was aware of it seems to me a very legitimate point. There's no doubt on the facts of the case. There was a payment, there was a series of payments to this woman. That was to the benefit of Trump. Trump was aware of it. It seems very plausible to me. So there is a case here. The question whether the case raises to beyond a misdemeanor to a felony seems very much up for grabs. The case, as you say, whether the public care about that remains very much up for grabs. But there is this issue that the payments existed. It looks like a cover-up.
But what's the crime?
Well,
Can you tell me what is the crime Donald Trump has been accused of?
Well, the crime he's been accused of is by using electoral funds in order improperly to conceal a secret about Stormy Daniels.
Right. When did Cohen say he had the conversation with Donald Trump to make the payment? Do you know? Because it was revealed yesterday.
You want to tell me?
January after the election.
Yeah,
it's really weird, isn't it? How do you create an election, malfeasance? How do you corrupt an election financially after it's occurred? It's a clown show. It's a Monty Python skit. He had that discussion. Mike Cohen said, we did it in January. The elections in America occur in November. The whole thing's a farrago.
But a farrago, presumably, that could still... I mean, do you think it matters? Let me provoke it this way, Sebastian. Does it matter if the farrago, as you call it, is regarded as a misdemeanor by a jury? Does it matter?
You're missing the point. You can't commit a crime of election interference or mislabeling of funds after the election, right?
Well, it's not my point I'm missing. But it's not my point I'm missing.
You can't find somebody guilty for a crime it's impossible to commit.
So
right?
He can't be found guilty in this court.
No, even if he is, it'll be dismissed and appealed because it's absurd. You can't commit a crime after you are meant to have committed the crime. It's impossible. You can't say, you robbed the bank on Tuesday, but I never went to the bank until Friday, right?
I understand the point you're making, but the question isn't for me to make a decision about this. This is going to court. There is a prosecution.
I answered your question. I answered your question.
So you think either he wins here or he wins on appeal, and but the question, if he wins on appeal, that will happen after the election. So my question still remains, Sebastian, if he loses here, if he is found to have committed a misdemeanor, does that matter? Do you think that the first time that would ever...
As I said, he's facing 730 years in prison because the left wants to steal the election before the first vote is actually put in a ballot box. Okay, every time they do this, he gets more popular and raises more money. So what do you think? What do you think it happens if he becomes guilty? He'll probably have a 49-state blowout in the election. Every time they come after him more, he gets more popular. That has been the last 9 months in this insane political environment. That's just a statement of fact. Look at the polls. The New York Times Siena poll, New York Times, hard exactly MAGA land, said he's trouncing Biden in 5 out of 6 of the battleground states. That's the New York Times,
I'm familiar
man.
with the polls. I guess the question is, once it becomes a fact, if it does indeed become a fact,
it's not a fact.
Conviction.
Being found guilty is not a fact. Okay, you really need to get beyond your idée fixe. Okay, if you've got another question, ask it.
Just to clarify the point I was making, if he becomes convicted, that is a fact. If he is a former presidential candidate who is convicted of a misdemeanor in this state court, that becomes a fact. And the question that we can't know, because it hasn't happened yet, is whether that fact, that existence of a thing, alters people's minds. And you made the point, which may well be true, that polls point that won't make a difference, but we won't know until it happens, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, so what's your question?
So the question is, your view is that it's all pushing one way. I was merely interested in whether there's a way it could go in the opposite direction, but you've made that clear that you don't think the case. One of the things that Cohen did say, Sebastian, and I'm interested in your thoughts on why he said it and your own reaction. He said he became his moral compass. He said he violated his moral compass by associating himself with Trump, is something he said.
He also said he lied to his wife about why he was getting a refi on his mortgage. He lied to the Inland Revenue Service. He lied to everyone, and he went to prison for 14 months because he is a convicted perjurer and he has been struck off the bar. So I couldn't give a flying fig what Michael Cohen says, because he's a convicted perjurer who lied to his wife and the Inland Revenue, and he should be back in jail.
He's someone that Trump associated with, though. Someone who...
Have you never associated with people who turned out to be scumbags? Grow up, man. Don't ask grown up questions. Ask grown up questions.
I don't think I've ever. No, I think it's a reasonable question to ponder why Trump clutched him to his bosom.
How many people do you think Donald Trump has hired in the last 50 years of business? Have a rough guess. Maybe 50,000 or 60,000.
Well, how many has he hired as his very close associates?
Very close associate. He was a low-level lawyer who was hired to be a fix-it man. Okay. That's all it was.
That's a significant figure. And you said yourself, Sebastian, he thought he'd become chief of staff.
He did.
Trump.
Yes,
he
did.
Was part of the inner
nobody
so he clearly thought he was part of the inner circle.
Yeah, he thought it. Nobody who'd ever met him thought it. He was a delusional, diminutive little arse, is what he was.
Have you ever had a moment where you thought, I wish I'd never got close to Trump?
Oh, on the contrary. He's done so much for me, stood by me, so much for this country. I wish I could do more for the man.
And is he the next president of America?
Well, if the elections were today, absolutely. It'd be a cakewalk.
Sebastian, good to speak to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you kindly.